Dr. Shiva Rizvi, you take your own time, even if you go a bit over the limit. So you have your own 55 minutes to an hour to enlighten us with the study of Najul Balagha and the Marifat of Allah. Please start the session.
Jazakallah. Mu'minin, mu'minat, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغه مدحته القائلون ولا يحسن عماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووطد بالصخور ميادان أرضه أول الدين معرفته ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خير المبشرين والمنذرين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطاهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. मुमिनीन मुमिनात, इल्तिमास सूरह फातिहा है। आपसे गुजारिश है कि सैयद नूरुल हसन जाफरी इब्न सैयद मोहम्मद हसन जाफरी और सबिहा नूरुल हसन जाफरी बिन्त सैयद अली अकबर की अरवाह के लिए और जुमला मोमिनीन हाजरीन मजलिस में मोमिनीन के मरहुमीन की अरवाह के लिए सूरह फातिहा। Mu'mineen, mu'minat, my youngers, my elders, my brothers, my sisters, dearest friends, we continue our study of the Nahjul Balagha and also the Isal of our Marhumin, of course. The discussion will be in English and inshallah the Masaib will be in Urdu. We are discussing the first portion of the first sermon of Nahjul Balagha. I was looking at my calendar and I realized this is the 12th lecture that we've had since the beginning of the year on this topic. And when we initiated, we were thinking that perhaps we would have gotten much further than this by now. I would like to conclude the first portion of the first sermon, which is the first third of the sermon, which is mainly about Tawheed. And inshallah, I would like to conclude that today. Not that we will ever conclude it, because as I even look at what we have to talk about today, I'm realizing it is a never-ending topic, of course, because Tawheed is limitless. And when you study the infinite, you need infinite time to study the infinite. So therefore, it's a never-ending topic, but just in the interest of perhaps moving on to the other part, which would be the creation of the universe, and then moving on to the sending of the prophets. I think that that's also very important. And nowadays, what happens is when we look at science versus religion as two things that seem to be fighting each other, it's very, I think, unnatural to do so. The one who is a muwahid and who believes in Allah and understands Allah is the cause of all creation is very well aware that science and religion are not enemies of each other. It is simply the ones who are interpreting science in a certain way and the ones who are interpreting religion in a certain way that they have become enemies of each other. The actual science itself and religion itself are one. There's no difference. It's all Islam. We have decided to separate it. Just like the church and state was separated in the Great Schism in Europe after the medieval ages, where we see the Renaissance period in the 1400s and so on afterwards in Europe. If you look at church and state being separated as they are still today, that is a separation that is man-made. In the same way, Islam is a religion that governs all of our life. We cannot separate it from government. So when we look at Islam, it is governance. And therefore, to separate it is our own doing, which is okay, we can do it ourselves, but maybe it has advantages or disadvantages, and we'll find out, and that's a separate debate. However, it is our own doing. I think that is something everybody can mutually accept. It's just like, for example, the Quran was not revealed in 30 paras. So when someone says that, oh, the Shias have 40 paras, the paras and, a juz are something that we divided the Quran into. The Quran was not revealed in 30 parts. So in the same way, we do these things, like this is us. And in the same way, we also divided science and religion. Allah sent it as one thing. And so religion is an explanation of the metaphysical, and science is the explanation of the physical. But the metaphysical and physical are both from Allah. So therefore, even science should be explaining Him. And that is why, as we have advanced in science, those who were muwahid and believed in Allah, their belief increased in Allah because of science. Not because of science per se, but because of what they studied in science, it increased their conviction because they found signs of Allah in science as well. So we should not distinguish them. However, what happens is, when we do not understand Tawheed, and then we do not understand the purpose of creation, that is when these things start to cause confusion. Now, I'll continue from the same slide where we left off. If I can share that, pardon me, that slipped my mind a bit, one moment, and share screen. Okay. Inshallah, it is being shared now. And yesterday, or rather last Sunday, excuse me, I tend to press pause when I stop a session and then I press play again. So for me, it's almost like last Sunday. For everybody, it may not be that way. However, I will not indulge in a recap simply because, if I go into the recap, I'm always guilty of going into detail and repeating things and so on. This is where we stopped last time, and in danger of spending more time here, I will simply move on to the next sentence. Everything is recorded. Of course, it's always important to listen, to know what was being said, to understand what is being said now. And our dear mu'mineen always have that option to look at the YouTube video or to ask me if there's any confusion. وَمَنْ قَالَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ وَمَنْ قَالَ فِيمَا فَقَدْ ضَمَّنَّهُ. And the one who says, what? Imam Ali is saying, do not say this. If you say this, what do you say? In what is he? In what is he means, where is he? Because when you say where is referring to a location. A location is referring to a focal point in space. And when we say where, we automatically bring it into the realm of space, because where is for space. Before there was space, there was no where. There was no concept of where. So when we say where for Allah, it is important to realize that He is the creator of where. When we say the creator of where, what we mean is that before Allah created space, there was no where. So therefore he was present, but there was no such thing as where. The need for where came about when the need for a physical particle to put it somewhere. So when he wanted to put it somewhere, he created space first. That is why we see Allah has created space. In a great hadith Qudsi, in which it talks about, the Bibi as well, whom we are, perhaps we will commemorate the Masayib of her as well today, inshallah, as we connect with the Marsiya. And what in the hadith, just going into the English very quickly, because time is of the essence, and you've all heard the hadith of, I'm sure, in which we see that the holiest messenger is being told by Allah. And what is being told? It is being told that, oh, beloved messenger, I would not have created the aflaq if I did not want to create you. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being addressed by Allah. I would not have created the aflaq, and the aflaq is all of the space that we have around us, and the skies and the heavens. So therefore he created the heavens, and he says that I would not have created them if I did not want to create you. And we see that what he created was the nur of the Ahlul Bayt. So when he created space, then he put the nur there. That means there was no place to place this nur. So he created that. And then he says that if I had not wanted to create Ali, I would not have created you. So therefore we understand that from the nur Muhammadi comes the nur Alawi. And then he says, if I had not wanted to create Bibi Sayyida Salamullah Alayha, I would not have created Amirul Mu'mineen. So we see the nur of Bibi Sayyida coming from that. So these initial creations that are coming about, there is a step-by-step sequence. And we see that he starts by saying, Allah Azza wa Jalla starts by saying, I would not have created the space if I did not want to make you. So therefore, when we come into time and space, then in this time and space is coming the Noor Ahlul Bayt, the Nur of Masumeen. The Nur of Allah does not come into time and space. When the Quran says the Nur of Allah is the Nur of Samawat and Arz, this is an understanding so that we can relate to it, because he is the cause of that Nur. We should not think that when I look upon the earth and the skies and the heavens and I see light, that is Allah. Allah does not come within time and space. So therefore we will err greatly if we start to look at the nur of Samawat and Arz and think of it literally as Allah. Because if we are seeing it, it is not Allah. And if we are calling it light, then we are seeing it. So therefore, when we say where, we cannot say where for Allah, because he created where. There was no concept of where. Now that means that for me, or for any youngster who was asking this question, now we struggle. Now we are thinking, wait, Allah is nowhere, but what does that mean? Like, what is it to not have a where? What was it like before Allah created space, when there was no where and there was no here, there, where? Then what was it like? That is not something I can imagine for me to be able to explain. For me to imagine that, I would have to be able to exist outside of time and space. For that to happen, I would have to not be who I am. I am a creature whose intellect is learning everything through time and space. Therefore, for me to imagine pre-time and space becomes an impossibility. Perhaps if you ask me again, when we are in Jannah, when there is a different concept of time, then maybe I can understand it in a slightly higher level. At this point on earth, when I am limited by time and space, how will I understand? And how will I say, where is Allah? And where was Allah before there was no where? So therefore, we need to realize that the where is something that is created. To separate the creation from the creator is essential, and to not attach the creation to the creator. When we accept time is created, space is created, where is created, then it becomes a little easier for us to try and purify our concepts of Tawheed. And then we go on to say, وَمَنْ قَالَ عَلَامًا. And then the one who said, upon what is he? So therefore, is he sitting upon something? That means, does he live in the Kaaba? Does he live on the Arsh? Is he sitting upon a throne? Many times people get offended when someone says, if we read, for example, the speech, one of the sermons of Amirul Mu'mineen, in which Amirul Mu'mineen has said that I am the one who will sit upon the kursi and pass judgment upon the creation of Allah. When that is said, and it is found in this sermon, which is found in many books, from whether it be Tafsir al-Burhan or whether it be Amali al-Suduq or we will see, and in other tafsir as well, we will see that, and there's many khutbah that point to this. I don't want to allude and spend too much time there, but when we say that, what we are doing is we are protecting Tawheed. Someone will listen to that and say, wait a minute, you just said that Imam Ali salatu wassalamu alayhi is sitting upon the kursi of Allah and is passing the judgments upon creation. That is Allah's job. You are saying Imam Ali is Allah. No, we are not. What we are saying is that Allah will not sit upon a chair. For if you think Allah will sit upon a chair, therefore you have limited him to time and space. Rather, Allah will manifest his will through the Ahlul Bayt. Therefore, Allah has a medium for manifesting his will, and that will be manifested in this way. So when we understand Tawheed and when we take Tawheed from the Ahlul Bayt, we don't have him sitting on a kursi. Otherwise, we will read in Sahih al-Bukhari, it will say that Allah will put his foot into hell when hell cries out and says that I want to have more. So are we giving Allah physicality? Are we giving him a leg? Are we giving him a body that he will sit upon the chair? The chair, the kursi is his creation. He does not sit on his own creation. He is separate from that. He cannot be manifested in a way that he would be limited by his own creation. That is just silly. So therefore, we have to accept that he will manifest his will in some way. Many people will be willing to accept that an angel will come and pass. If someone had said Hazrat Jibreel will pass the judgments upon the creation on the day of judgment, many would have accepted that. However, when it is said Imam Ali will pass the judgments, now it becomes a little hard to accept. And that is because we do not have that marifah of the Ahlul Bayt, and we have more faith in the angels perhaps, and we have raised their status above the level of the Ahlul Bayt. Therefore, it is essential for Shias to realize the Ahlul Bayt are the first effect, the first cause, the first medium by which Allah created the universe, and everything comes after. So it becomes much easier when we realize that. And the one who said, upon what is he? So therefore, of course, he is upon nothing. Now, Ka'inun means he exists. He is a being, to be, to exist. This in itself is something that philosophy and people who start to think will often think about as the first step. Because the first step in anything is, do I exist? That's what I started off with perhaps many Sundays ago in the first lecture or two, where we discussed, do we exist or not? That is the first thing that needs to be established. However, when we exist, we look at our existence through evidence. So we have evidence of our existence, and that may be sensory, that we realize we exist by our senses, or it may be metaphysical, that we realize we exist because of our intellect. So therefore, one Western philosopher said, I think, therefore I am. That means that there is someone who is thinking and asking the question, do I exist? So in order to exist, in order to ask the question, do I exist, we must exist. And therefore it becomes, the answer in itself. The question is the answer. Do I exist is a question, but it is answered by itself. We would not ask the question if we did not exist. But if we exist, it's because of intellect and because of our own observation. Allah is existing without being observed. In other words, everything that we know to exist exists through observation. Sometimes in philosophy or logic, the question is asked, if there is a tree that falls in a forest somewhere and crashes to the ground, will it produce a sound if no one heard it? It's not a scientific question. Scientifically, of course, it produces a sound. Anything that hits the ground with an impact will produce a sound. But the question rather is more, if nobody heard it, does it really exist? So sound waves would have been produced, but because nobody was there to listen to those sound waves, the existence is not acknowledged. That means that existence is observed, and then we know it exists. But without observation of it, we do not know that it exists. Perhaps when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I was a treasure that was hidden, kuntu kanzan makhfiya hababtu an urafa, I wanted to be known. That means when Allah's existence was observed by another entity, then it was a different type of existence. There is the existence that is observed. And it is said that the nur that was sent into the universe was a nur of the Ahlul Bayt, and they were the first ones to worship Allah and to recognize him. Therefore, they observed him through a different means, through the means of the qalb or the means of the nur, through a metaphysical means. And therefore, that is one form of existence. Allah existed before there was any to observe that he existed. So one thing about existence is some existence is observed, some is not observed, but we still have evidence of it even though we don't observe it. Such as our Imam is ghaib, he is not in observation by us, but his existence is there. And his existence is there not because we are observing him, but because like Allah, he can exist without being observed. Therefore, it is not incumbent, it is not necessary that he be observed to exist. So Allah existed before any sensory observation of him. The other aspect of existence is that existence comes into being through steps. And we wonder why we went through all these steps. And Allah created creation in pairs to realize that he has no pair, and in similarities to realize he has no similarity, in steps to realize he has no steps. He has always existed, but he did not come into being like us, where we did not exist and then we existed, where we were in our mother's womb and we went through evolutionary stages. So these evolutionary stages that we are going through is done to show and differentiate him from us, that he does not come into being like that. And also to differentiate the Ma'soom, the 14 Ma'soomin from us. They do not come into existence simply by going through embryological processes in trimesters in the womb. In other words, they come into being in a different way. So therefore, when Allah creates, he creates things in different mechanisms. And that is to show us that not everyone is created in the same way. We see Hazrat Adam coming into existence in a very different way. We see Hazrat Isa alayhi salam coming into existence in a very different way. And this is to show us the Ma'soomin are even more different. Therefore, when everything came into existence, it came into existence beginning with kun fayakun. But we have to realize that kun itself is a word. And Allah is not a word, nor does he say words like we do. So therefore, when we are saying kun, it is important to realize that this kun that Allah is saying as well needed a medium to be said. And therefore, when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says that I am the kun of kun fayakun, therefore we realize that he is the medium. That means he is kun. So therefore, when Allah says be and it is, then he is using his will. That will is kun. That kun is Amir al-Mu'mineen, or it is the nur of the Ma'soomin, as you wish to call it. Therefore, Allah does not say and does not speak because he is above that. He created words. If he created words, it is said that Allah's will, the Ma'soomin have told us that Allah's will is creation. That means when Allah wills something, it comes into being. Now, if I will something, anything, the smallest of things, I will to have a cup of tea. What do? I have to go and make my tea. And it's a step-by-step process. When Allah wills something, it starts to exist. He does not will anything that doesn't come into existence. Everything. So what is his will? We are seeing his will. We are living in his will. His will is not like my will. My will is weak. My will is a desire that I will try to implement, and maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen. That is why before I exert my will, I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. If my will is noble, if it is honorable, if it is not for gunah, then I will say Bismillah. Therefore, I encourage my young ones, always start everything you do with Bismillah. And if you are doing something in your day and you think I cannot start this with Bismillah, then therefore, if you are a conscientious person, I have heard there are people who have even drank alcohol, na'uzubillah, by saying Bismillah. So, there are weird people in the universe who defy Allah in very different ways. But if we have a conscience, we will not say anything wrong. We will not do anything wrong and start it with Bismillah. So how easy is my day? Anything that Allah has allowed me to do, I can start with his name, and then I enact my weak will. His will is that this universe exists. That means he willed and it came into being. So we are living in his will. We are surrounded by his will. Therefore, when Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I do not see any shay without seeing Allah, my Allah, in it and outside of it and in front of it and behind it, to its right, to its left. above it, below it. That is because his will is so manifest. It is so manifest, it is so obvious that for him, for Imam Ali, there is nothing else to see but the will of Allah. And therefore we say that Allah is Samad. And when we say Allah is Samad, then we realize that he did not come about by any of these means and any of these mechanisms. Instead, he came about in a different way. So we came about through biological step-by-step process. We see Hazrat Isa coming about through his word. A word is whispered. Allah, who does not whisper a word, has caused a word to be whispered. And he says in the Quran that Isa is my kalima. Kalimatuhu. What is he? He is my word. And then we see Hazrat Adam, lima khalaqtu biyaday. He was created with my two hands. And then what of the ma'sumin? The ma'sumin are even before this. So therefore they were not created with the hand. They are not just the word. They are not coming through embryological process. They are before kun, because they are kun. Therefore to say kun, they were needed. So the gap, sometimes it is said Amir al-Mu'mineen is the gap between kun and fayakun. No, Amir al-Mu'mineen is before kun. He is not between kun and fayakun. He is before kun, for he is kun. Therefore, Allah used a means to bring this kun into the world. And this kun is the ma'sumin. And therefore, we see that they are not coming about into existence in any of the ways, whether it was Hazrat Adam or Hazrat Isa or any of us human beings. And then we say Allah is Samad. Samad is an amazing word, but when we look at Samad, we know what is Samad? Al-Qafi, hadith number 318. It is asked of none other than the holiest Imam, who was the Sayyid al-Sajideen, and he is saying, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Al-Samad is one who says be, and it is. Therefore, Al-Samad is the one who brings about the existence of kun. And Al-Samad is the one who originated all things, created their opposites. You know, opposites and similarities makes it a lot easier. Anything that has an opposite is not Allah. Anything that has a similarity is not Allah. Allah is above opposites. He created opposites. He created similarities. He is unique. Therefore, there is none like him, but there are others, and everything else is in pairs and similarities. The 14 Masumin have similarities to each other. Allah is distinct from everything. He is the one who has no adversary. That means there is no enemy of Allah. Satan is not the enemy of Allah. Sometimes it is looked like Satan versus God is the battle. This is not the battle. It is not even, you know, that we would say that the Masumin versus Satan. Satan does not compare to the Masumin. He did not even try to compare to the Masumin. The Masumin did not do sajda to Hazrat Adam. They were the Aleen. Allah asked them, Am kunta min al-Aleen? Are you from the Aleen? And they said, no, we are. And Iblis did not say, I am from the Aleen. Instead, he said, what did he say? He said, Ana khayrun minhu. I am better than him. He did not say, I am equal to the Aleen or I am better than the Aleen. Iblis compared himself to Hazrat Adam. Therefore, Iblis is the adversary of Hazrat Adam and Awlad Adam, not the adversary of the Aleen. There is no competition between Iblis and our holiest Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no competition, let alone between Iblis and Allah, one little creature of Allah amongst the infinite creatures of Allah. So therefore, he has no opposite, no matched, absolutely nothing can compare to him. We see also in Tafsir al-Burhan by Allamah Sayyid Hashim Hussain Bahrani, and this is in Surah Tawheed, which is our 112th surah of the Quran. When he's being asked about the details, Imam Hussain as-salatu was-salamu alayhi says regarding what is Samad, he does not beget. And therefore, and this is also about, you know, lam yalid wa lam yulad. And nothing like the turbid newborn, the way we come into the world. He does not come into the world like that. There is nothing within him. So do not consider within him to have a soul. It is when we say Ruhullah, we do not mean that Allah has a soul. And do not attribute slumber to him. He does not sleep. He created sleep. He does not fear. He created fear. He does not have anxiety and sadness. He created anxiety and sadness. He is not happy and laughing and crying. None of these emotions come. He is the creator of all emotions by which we are bound. All of these emotions that are found here in this list that Imam Hussein salatu wassalamu alayhi is mentioning are all changes in state. Therefore, crying is a change in the state. And Allah does not change in his state. These are all kafiyat. These are all states of being that can change. Today I am happy, tomorrow I am sad. Happy is different from sad. That means if I am happy and then I am sad, I have changed my state of existence. Allah is infinite and pure and away from change. Why? Allah created the concept of change. That means the idea of changing, going from sickness to health, life to death, death to life, rich to poor, young to old, by the passage of time, all of this is concepts of creation, the natural entropy of the universe that physics talks about, where every particle is degrading slowly over time, everything expires. All of this is change, and Allah created change. Therefore, when we say, how does Allah change? How does he go from this to that? And who made him and where did he come from? These are all aspects of change. And before he created change, there was no concept of any kind of tabdili, any kind of irtiqa, any evolution, any kafiyat. And therefore, for him to be satisfied, for him to be hungry, these things are silly. He created hunger and satisfaction. All of these have opposites to each other. So how easy it becomes to purify Allah in our hearts when we start to realize that he is Samad. Samad is that universal word. And then what happens is this second point over here is incredible, nor like the subtle things coming out from their locations. Now Imam Hussein salatu wassalamu alayhi is talking about the sensory perceptions, the subtle senses, like the sight from the eyes. So eyes and sight, we do not see the waves that are coming into our eyes, but in our mind, we form a vision of the world around us. Is that not strange when I think about it? When I ask myself the question, I can see the world around me, but I cannot see the medium by which I see. I neither see my own eyeballs, and I neither see the UV waves, yet in my mind, there is a complete picture of the entire existence in 3 dimensions or even in 4 dimensions. I do not see I do not see the sound waves that are coming to my ears. I do not know they exist even. Unless science had showed them, I would not know there are UV waves by which I see, sound waves by which I hear, yet sight, smell, I do not see the odors or perceive them, but I know they exist. And even when we talk about the taste from the mouth or the speech of the tongue, the sound waves produced by my mouth, you do not see the message as it travels through the air, but you see me producing it and you receive it, and then you understand everything I'm trying to say from it. So Allah is not also sensory yet. And also like fire from the fire from the rock, that is the spark that comes from the rock. So the spark that comes from the rock is so subtle, sometimes it is not seen, yet it brings about and produces a great flame. And discernment from the heart, when your heart is able to distinguish between things. And then Imam Hussein salatu wasalam goes on to say, but he, Allah, is al-Samad. He is not from a thing, nor is anything from him, nor is he in anything. He begins and initiates all things. He grows all things. He creates by his desire. When he desires, it exists. So if you want to know what Allah desires, you look at the existence. What is his first and foremost desire? The 14 masumin. Inni ma khalaqtu samaa'a mamniyatan wala ardhan madhiyya wala qamaran munira wala shamsan mudhiyya illa fi mahabbati ha'ula'i al-khamsati alladhina hum tahta al-kisa. His will. So yes, we are his will. He will to create us. Before us is everything else. Before that is the masumin. So therefore they are his true desire. That is what we need to understand. And it fades to perish what he creates by his desire. So everything he creates, he created it to perish. Kullu man alayha fan. To understand that only he is unchanging. We will change. He could have, why did Allah not create us forever? The young ones ask, why is it, that Allah created us in stages and we could have gone on to live in heaven? He knows who's going to go to heaven, send them to heaven. He knows who's going to go to hell, send them to hell. But he did not do that. No, instead what he did was he created us in life and death. Why? So that you can know that he does not have life and death. He is Hayy, but he is the Hayy that is kullu Hayy. He la Hayy, and he is Hayyu la yamut. So he is the one who is life, but in a different way, not like us. Our life has an opposite, death. He has no opposite. We would not know that he does not live or die unless we had known what life and death is. Do you see how everything that he has done is to show he is unchanging? Why has he made us rich and poor? We would not know that he does not go through changes in state unless we realize what rich and poor are. All of the opposites that we have to go through in our life are to understand him and to realize that he is separate from all of this. Imam also goes on to say, and I'm going to elaborate a little more on what Imam Hussain said because that was incredible. We see Imam al-Baqir salatu wassalamu alayhi, al-Samad stands for the chief, the one who is obeyed, the one whom any command must be obeyed and there is none to command him. And then it is said that Imam Jafar Sadiq salatu wassalamu alayhi said that Samad is the one who has no interior. No inside, no spirit. We all have layers and levels, but his tawheed is one. And therefore, we see that his spirit, when we say his spirit, it is not his spirit that strengthened, for example, the hearts of the Rasul and the Mu'mineen. It is something that he has created. And therefore, we see that a group came from Palestine to Imam al-Baqir salatu wassalamu alayhi. This is a continuation from that Tafsir al-Burhan under the topic of Surah Tawheed. And it is said that Samad is based upon five letters. And when you look at those 5 letters, he says Alif. Alif is based upon the fact that Allah has his self-attribution. That means his attributes are not separate from the self. And he is the mighty and majestic. And therefore it is Alif. And then when we look at Alif itself, it is the beginning of everything. It is the start of the alphabet. It is also the start of Allah's name. It is the start of the universe. And it is an indication that Allah is hidden from the sensory perceptions. Why? Because it is followed by Lam. And what is Lam? The Imam says that Alif and Lam are both embedded upon not appearing upon the tongue. That means when we say Allahus Samad, therefore we are not saying Alif and Lam. When you say Qul Huwallahu Ahad Allahus Samad, you don't say Allahu al-Samad. Instead, in the Quranic Qirat, we say As-Samad. Do you see how everything is perfection? Even the Qirat of the Quran contains the secrets of Tawheed. Tawheed is manifest at every level. The Imam says that Alif and Lam are not said in the same way that we do not say it, nor do we hear it, but it is there. Allah is above our senses. We cannot say him, we cannot hear him, but he is there. It is divine, but he is latif. He is very subtle, in the same way that Alif and Lam is not said. And they do not occur on the tongue of the describer, nor the ear of the listener, because the interpretation of God is above this. The interpretation of God will not come onto the tongue or go into the ear. He is above all of this. but rather the initiation of the imaginations and the creator of the sensory perceptions. We cannot use imagination to imagine him, he created it. We cannot use senses to sense him, he created it. And therefore he is hidden in the alif and lam of al-samad. He is hidden, and that hidden is not going to be manifest by our tongue or by our ears. Rather, it appears during the writing. So when we look at the Quran, we see the alif and lam of al-samad. And glorious is he, Imam says. Imam al-Jafar as-salatu wassalamu alayhi says, his lordship appears in the initiation of the creation and the installation. Just like alif and lam is not seen, but it begins al-samad, he is not seen, but he begins all of creation. So when the servant looks at himself, he does not see his own soul, just as the letter lam in the word is not seen either, but it is the beginning of your creation. O human, you do not see the beginning of your own creation, yet you ask about the beginning of Allah who has no beginning. It is so powerful, this statement. Only Imam can explain Allah like this. Do you see how when the Imam explains Allah, it comes with a clarity and nur into your heart? Therefore, it is essential to not understand Allah from anybody else, especially not ourselves. I cannot use my qiyas to try and understand what is Allahus Samad. So when he looks at the writing, he realizes, oh, look, there is an alif and lam there. Like when he looks at the universe, he sees Sad, Mim, Dal. He does not see the alif, lam. But when the servant ponders regarding the essence of the creator and what type of creator this is, what is his state, what is his quality, then we become stupefied and confused. We do not understand, because his thinking would, the person's thinking would not encompass anything that he imagines for Allah. Allah is not coming into here. Therefore, when he investigates his own creation, when I investigate my own creation, it would be proved to me that he, mighty and majestic, is my creator, because I cannot look inside of myself and see how this was made. And so therefore it must have a maker. You know, even when you look inside something and you know how it is made, you realize it must have a maker. If you open the simplest machinery to look inside and you see the logic and the step-by-step functionality by which that machine, even if it's just an orange juice maker, even your smoothie maker at home and your coffee maker is machinery, and your laptop. And therefore, of course, when we look inside of ourselves, this body has more perfection than my computer. If my computer is made by somebody, how can I possibly perceive that this body came into existence by accident? As for the letter Sad, a Sad is evidence that he is the true As-Sadiq. That means that we have to realize that he is a Sadiq in a way that not in a way that anybody else can be a Sadiq. He created truth and falsehood. Remember, truth has an opposite, falsehood. Therefore, he created it. Before that, he was the only truth, and he is, even after that, he is the only truth. But he created these two as opposites so that we would realize he is not the truth in a way that he can be false. Nor is he a truth in the way that he is capable of falsehood. Nor is he a truth in the way that there is someone opposite to him that would be the falsehood of him. None stand in front of him. If you decide to worship something else besides Allah, you are not bringing that to his opposite. Nothing is opposite to him. If we are standing to worship, for example, the stars and the trees instead of Allah, they are his creations. We worship an idol, that is his creation. If I worship myself, the atheist is involved in self-worship, because the atheist has decided that they know how the universe was made. So they have come up with their own cause. If the atheist feels offended by this, then I would just change my statement and try and be a little more correct and say the atheist believes in chance. The atheist worships luck, because it must be luck that brought about the collision of particles in such a way to cause everything that exists. So he is truth, and there is no falsehood opposite to him. And the Imam says the letter Mim in As-Samad is because of mulk. And therefore he and everything is in his mulk, it is in his domain. Mulk is the power, the dominion, the domain of Allah. And mulk is also the laqab of Bibi Sayyida. Therefore we see his power, his might, his domain, everything is through Bibi Sayyida. And he is the one who is the Malik al-Mulk. So therefore, you know, when we say that Tabarakalladhi biyadihil mulk, in his hand is mulk. Therefore, he must have a hand, and there is a mulk in his hand. So he is certainly not the mulk. Because if he is the mulk, how would he be holding it in his hand? You do not hold in your hand what is not you. His hand, Yadullah, every Shia knows what Yadullah is. I don't have to explain that. Tabarakalladhi biyadihil mulk in Surah Mulk means that Babarkat is Allah who has Amirul Mu'mineen and in whose hand is Bibi Sayyida. This is a proclamation of the nikah of Amirul Mu'mineen with Bibi Sayyida. And it is through them that he shows his dominion to the entire universe. He says, I am the Malik of the universe, but how is it proven? It is a dawa. The dalil is the ma'sumin. It is proven through them. It is their offspring that is controlling all that Allah wants to control. And all that Allah's will is controlling. And as for the Dal of Al-Samad, it is Dal. And Dal is what? It is that which is the evidence. It is that which is his permanence and is exalted. But he, mighty and majestic, is the creator of existence. Therefore, we see that, you know, everything that exists, that is daim, that is going to be forever. Then he, as-salatu was-salam, said, if I were to find anybody who could bear this knowledge, in other words, the Imam says, मैंने कह तो दिया जो मुझे कहना था, लेकिन अगर मुझे कोई मिलता जो ज़र्फ रखता, if anybody would be able to understand what I'm saying, I would explain Tawheed, the Imam says, just through this word, Samad. Just through this word Samad, I would explain everything. That is what Samad is. And therefore, he exists, but not from non-existence. I've come to the point where I wanted to be interested in stopping. I will just go through this because I'm notorious for not keeping my promise and continuing and not finishing the topic, just for the sake of translation, so I can move on to creation, inshallah, next Sunday. He is mawjood la an adama. He did not come from Adam. He created wujud, and he created Adam. It is incredible how he created existence itself. So when we say, does he exist? It is so hard to understand his existence because he created existence to explain himself, but he also created non-existence to explain that he does not exist through non-existence, nor will he become non-existent, but everything else can. And therefore he said, Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. That means everything can change and not exist but him. He is the creator of existence. He is the creator of non-existence. If I say what was before Allah, I am saying then he didn't exist. He created the idea of not existing. It is incredible. We appreciate Allah. Science appreciates Allah, by understanding an apple and a strawberry and a rabbit and a deer. And the Imam explains to you Allah by understanding the concept of creation. It is incredible when you look at it from that level. And then that is when Tawheed will start to make sense. And that is when we will not get confused. Even today, when I am reciting a majlis somewhere and I say Amirul Mu'mineen said that I am the one who created Adam with my hands, Allah does not have hands, then people object and say I have made Amirul Mu'mineen into Allah. And that is because we have not understood Tawheed. If we understand that Allah is above even existence and non-existence, then how will we attribute hands to Allah and time and space to Allah? We need to realize the medium and the mechanisms that He uses. So therefore, to be with something is through, He is ma'a kulli shay. He is with everything, la bi muqarana. But He is not in a way that He is near it and comparable to others, like I can be far from you and near from you. His nearness to us is not physical, but it is ideological. We want to gain nearness to him, qurbatan ilallah, but he is already nearer to us than our nearest vein. وَغَيْرُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ لَا بِمُزَايَلَةٍ. And therefore he distinctly is separate from everything, but is not removed. He is with everything, but he created the concept of being close and far. He created the concept of being with and away. He created the concept of qurb. There was no such thing as qurb until he created it. Qurb is for us. It is not for him. فَاعِلٌ لَا بِمَعَنِ الْحَرَكَاتِ وَالْأَلَى. And therefore he commits action, but not by means of movement nor instruments. And therefore that means that he does action, yes, but his action is shown to us by his will. And his will is fulfilled by seeing creation. We do things by means and mechanisms. He saw when there was none to be viewed. We have vision, we lose vision, we gain vision. Our vision is limited. Our vision is through light waves. He does not see through light waves. He sees all in a different way. But he showed us that he sees just to show us. And that's why he gave us sight, so we can understand he sees too, but not like us. I do not know how he sees. I do not know how you see. How can I know how he sees? If I think about what is, my dear Mustafa Bhai seeing right now, my dear Huzur Qamar Abdi Sahab seeing right now, I don't know what they're seeing. I cannot see what they're seeing. How can I see what Allah is seeing? But he created sight for us in that way. He is oneness, but he is not alone. The idea of loneliness and company is of emotional state, bereavement, and this was created by him. So if you were to imagine he is alone, is he feeling lonely? No. The idea of loneliness he created. And therefore, when we start to separate everything from his actual being, when we start to separate everything and realize what he created and what he did not. If I took a little time extra, I do apologize. It was only in the interest of being able to conclude that topic for now in some way or the other.